Ready to tap into some incredible strengths. Today, we're diving deep into superhuman strength. But not the kind you might think. We're exploring how to cultivate mental muscle. That's what Logan Christopher calls it in his book, at least.
The really fascinating thing is how deeply our mental and physical abilities are connected. We're about to uncover how developing this mental muscle can have amazing effects in many areas of life.
Sounds intriguing. I'm already hooked. So Christopher starts his book off with a pretty captivating story about a 22-year-old Lauren. She saw her dad trapped under a BMW. It weighed 3,450 pounds. The jack had failed.
Wow.
Desperate, she somehow managed to lift the car and save him.
This anecdote just perfectly illustrates the power of belief, something we'll keep coming back to throughout this whole deep dive. In these really intense moments, the human body can tap into reserves of strength that we don't normally understand. What's even more fascinating is that this isn't just limited to, like, emergencies. We can actually learn to tap into this strength consciously.
Which brings us to something we've all heard of, right? The placebo effect. It's kind of like magic, where people experience real improvements just because they believe they're receiving treatment, even if it's like a sugar pill. But here's the thing. It's not just a medical oddity. It shows us the very real power our minds have over our physical selves.
Precisely. There's a fascinating study on knee surgery, for instance. Patients with debilitating knee pain were divided into three groups. Two of the groups underwent actual surgical procedures,
Okay.
while the third group had what's called a sham surgery. So incisions were made, but there was no actual repair done.
Interesting. What happened?
Well, here's the surprising part. All three groups experienced the same level of pain reduction and improvement in mobility. Even those who had the placebo surgery felt as if they'd had a real procedure because the results were so noticeable.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
The truly remarkable takeaway is that our expectations can actually trigger physiological changes that mimic real treatments. If belief can do that, imagine the possibilities if we could harness that power.
So how do we actually use this placebo effect? Is it essentially a matter of tricking ourselves into believing something?
It's not about deception. It's about understanding how our beliefs, our expectations, and our physiological responses are all connected. There was a study that looked at the impact of belief on vitamin C. And the participants who thought they were taking vitamin C, whether they actually received the vitamin or a placebo, reported an improvement in their immune function.
So just thinking you're taking vitamin C can actually boost your immunity.
That's what the research suggests. Our mental state has a remarkable influence on our well-being. And it gets even more interesting when we incorporate conditioning.
Conditioning. You mean like training a dog to respond to a bell?
Exactly. A study combined the placebo effect with that kind of conditioning. Subjects were given a placebo pill that they were told would enhance muscle function. This pill was paired with specific cues, much like the bell with food for those dogs.
So they were essentially training their bodies to respond to the placebo in the same way the dogs salivate at the sound of a bell.
Absolutely, and the results were impressive. The conditioned group showed increased muscle performance and a decrease in perceived fatigue, all from a sugar pill.
So we're really seeing that mind-body connection at work here. I can see how this can apply to something like strength training.
If we think about it more broadly, it raises the question, if our beliefs about vitamin C or a fake surgery can have these physical effects, what about our beliefs about our own strength?
So you're saying if I believe I'm weak, I will actually be weaker.
Let's consider the story about Abraham Maslow, the psychologist.
Okay?
He had a patient who was absolutely convinced that he was a corpse. To challenge this delusion, Maslow pricked the man's finger, drawing a small amount of blood. The patient, shocked, exclaimed, "Well, I'll be damned, corpses do bleed."
Oh, wow. So even in the face of physical evidence, he interpreted it to fit his existing belief. But how does this relate to strength training specifically?
Think about the legendary strongmen in the past, like Louis Cyr and George Hackenschmidt. They attributed their incredible feats of strength not only to physical training, but also to cultivating the right mindset. They emphasized surrounding yourself with individuals who had already achieved great strength, believing their beliefs could influence your own.
Kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you can be as strong as those around you, you're more likely to achieve it.
Precisely. It's about changing our internal narratives about what's possible. And one powerful tool for rewriting those narratives is hypnosis.
Hypnosis. That word often conjures up images of mind control and people doing things against their will.
Let's demystify what hypnosis really is. It's not about manipulating someone. It's about inducing a state of heightened suggestibility where the subconscious mind becomes more receptive to new ideas and beliefs.
So we're not talking about making someone cluck like a chicken on stage.
Not at all. In this context, hypnosis is a way to access and influence the deeper levels of our minds, where our beliefs and habits reside.
How does it actually work?
Well, our brains operate at different frequencies called brainwave states. Beta waves are associated with our waking alert state. Alpha waves are slower and associated with relaxation and contemplation. Then there are theta waves, which are even slower and are associated with deep relaxation and creativity. Hypnosis aims to shift our brain waves into these slower alpha or theta states, making the mind more receptive to suggestions.
So it's like calming the mental chatter to make space for new programming.
That's a great way to put it. And while it may seem mysterious, hypnosis is essentially a guided process of relaxation, concentration, and suggestion. It involves 5 basic steps: preconditioning, induction, deepening, hypnotic commands, and the bring back process.
Break those down for me. What's preconditioning?
Preconditioning is about preparing the mind for hypnosis. It involves building rapport with the hypnotist, addressing any fears or concerns the person might have, and setting clear goals for the session. It also includes things like breathing instructions, usually abdominal breathing, to enhance relaxation.
So it's like setting the stage for a successful hypnotic experience.
Exactly. Then comes induction, which is guiding the individual into a hypnotic trance. This can involve various methods like focusing on an object, listening to calming sounds, or following guided imagery.
And deepening, that means going even deeper into the trance.
Exactly. Deepening techniques are used to intensify the hypnotic state, making the subconscious mind even more receptive to suggestions. These can include things like progressive relaxation, counting down, or using metaphors to guide the person deeper into trance.
Okay, so the mind is prepped. A trance is induced and deepened. Now for the really interesting part. Hypnotic commands. What are those exactly?
Hypnotic commands are suggestions given during hypnosis.
Okay.
The goal is to reprogram the subconscious mind. They can be used to instill new beliefs, modify habits, or even influence physiological responses.
So if I wanted to enhance my strength, could a hypnotic command directly affect my muscles?
While it's not about directly controlling muscles, hypnotic commands work by changing our beliefs about our abilities. For instance, a command like, "My biceps are filled with powerful strength, effortlessly exerting force," can shift our internal perception, making us feel stronger and more confident.
So we're basically rewriting the software that governs our self-image and our capabilities.
Precisely. And finally, we have the bring back process. This is about gently guiding the individual out of the hypnotic state. This usually involves a countdown, suggestions for feeling refreshed and alert, and reaffirming the positive changes made during hypnosis.
Okay, so that's hypnosis in a nutshell. But I'm curious, how effective is it specifically for strength training?
Well, there was an interesting experiment conducted by Captain James Hadfield.
Okay.
He was investigating the effects of suggestion on grip strength using hypnosis. He tested a group of men under 3 different conditions: normal waking state, hypnotized with a suggestion of weakness, and hypnotized with a suggestion of extraordinary strength.
I'm guessing their grip strength varied depending on the suggestion.
You're absolutely right. In their normal state, their average grip strength was 101 pounds. However, with the suggestion of weakness, their grip strength plummeted to an average of only 29 pounds. One participant, a prize fighter, even remarked that his arm felt as small as a baby's.
Wow. That's a huge difference. What happened when they were given the suggestion of superhuman strength?
Their average grip strength shot up to a remarkable 138 pounds.
So simply by changing their belief about their strength, they significantly increased their performance.
Exactly. The takeaway here is this: the mind is an incredibly powerful tool that can shape our physical reality. And, when used skillfully, hypnotic commands can help us unlock our true potential.
So it's not just about brute force, it's about harnessing the power of the mind to unleash the strength within.
Precisely. And this goes far beyond just strength training. It applies to any area of life where we want to enhance our performance, whether it's in athletics, academics, or even in overcoming personal challenges. The mind is the ultimate control center.
That's incredibly empowering. It's like discovering a secret weapon we've had all along.
And it's a weapon we can all learn to wield. By understanding how our minds work and using tools like hypnosis, we can achieve things that might have once seemed impossible.
This really is a fascinating exploration into the uncharted territories of human potential. I can't wait to see where this journey takes us next.
Stay with us. We've only just begun to scratch the surface. Let's move beyond hypnotic commands now and explore another potent technique: visualization.
Visualization. The whole seeing is believing idea. Isn't that just wishful thinking, though?
Effective visualization goes far beyond simple daydreams. It's about engaging your mind in a way that actually mirrors real-world experiences. It creates neural pathways that prime your body for action.
So it's like mental rehearsal, prepping the body for the real performance.
That's a great analogy, and the benefits are backed by science. A study on templists found that those who incorporated visualization alongside their physical practice showed significantly more skill improvement compared to those who just focused on physical training alone.
That's fascinating. How can we make visualization more than just a mental picture, though?
The key is to involve all of your senses, not just sight. Imagine the feeling of the weight in your hand, the sound of your breath, the taste of exertion, even the smell of the gym. The more vivid and multisensory the visualization is, the stronger its impact will be.
So you're saying we need to create a truly immersive mental experience that feels as real as possible.
Exactly. And this is where it gets even more interesting. We can actually enhance the effectiveness of visualization by manipulating what are called submodalities.
Submodalities, what are those?
Think of submodalities as the fine-tuning controls for your senses. They're the qualities of each sense that determine how you experience things. For example, with vision, you have submodalities like brightness, color, size, distance, motion.
So if we adjust those submodalities, can we tailor our visualizations to make them more impactful?
Absolutely. Let's say you're visualizing a really challenging exercise. If you see the weight as huge and intimidating, it might make you feel scared or overwhelmed. But if you change the size submodality, making the weight appear smaller and more manageable in your mind's eye, you can actually change your emotional state. You can feel more confident and capable.
That's pretty amazing. It's like we have this mental toolbox we can use to actually reshape our internal reality.
And that reshaping process can be incredibly powerful for transforming limiting beliefs. If you believe an exercise is difficult, you can use submodalities to change how you perceive it. You can make the mental image brighter, maybe move it closer, even change its location in your mind's eye.
So we're not just visualizing success, we're actually reprogramming our core beliefs about what we're capable of achieving.
Exactly, and this applies to any area where we face mental roadblocks or self-limiting beliefs, not just physical training. Understanding submodalities gives us the ability to reshape our perceptions and unlock new levels of potential.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of these pieces fit together now. Belief, hypnosis, visualization, submodalities. It's a whole system of mental training.
To make this system even more effective, we can add another technique, anchoring.
Anchoring, that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
Anchoring is based on the principle of classical conditioning, kind of like that study we talked about earlier. It involves creating an association between a specific stimulus and a desired state. That stimulus could be a touch, a word, even a mental image.
So it's like creating a trigger that instantly evokes a certain emotion or mindset.
That's a great way to think about it. Let's say you want to anchor a feeling of intense focus right before you attempt a heavy lift. You'd choose a unique trigger, like touching your thumb and forefinger together, and then you'd repeatedly pair that trigger with the experience of feeling focused and powerful.
So over time, just that simple touch would become a shortcut to access that desired state.
Exactly, and the applications for anchoring are really vast. Athletes use it to trigger focus, motivation, relaxation, even to desensitize themselves to things like fear or pain.
I can see how that would be really useful, but how do you actually set an anchor? Is it just about repetition?
Repetition is important, but there are three key elements to creating a powerful anchor: choosing a unique trigger, entering a peak state, and then consistently pairing that trigger with the desired state.
So let's say I want to anchor a feeling of unshakable confidence before I do a big lift. First, I'd choose a trigger that I don't use for anything else, maybe a specific hand gesture.
Then you'd vividly remember a time when you felt incredibly confident. Relive that experience fully in your mind and body. And as you reach the peak of that feeling, you fire your anchor by making that hand gesture.
And I'd keep doing that, pairing the gesture with that feeling of confidence until the anchor becomes really strong.
Precisely. And eventually, just making that gesture will automatically bring up that feeling of unwavering confidence.
Wow. It's like having a mental remote control for your emotions.
In a way, it is. Anchoring gives us the ability to consciously choose the states we want to experience instead of being at the mercy of our automatic reactions.
This is really revolutionary stuff, but are there specific mental drills that are designed for strength gain?
Absolutely. Logan Christopher's book actually outlines a whole range of drills that combine these principles we've been talking about. For example, one drill involves using hypnotic commands to increase blood flow and strength to a particular muscle group. Another one uses submodality manipulation to make difficult exercises feel easier, which can reduce perceived exertion and improve performance.
So we're basically hacking our perception of difficulty, making the impossible seem achievable.
That's the essence of mental muscle training, using our minds to overcome limitation and unlock new levels of physical potential.
Okay, this has all been super fascinating, but I'm curious, can mental training also be applied to things like weight loss and muscle growth?
Absolutely. While proper diet and exercise are obviously essential, our mindset plays a huge role in achieving our body composition goals. There was a study where a group of hotel maids were told that their work was actually good exercise. And even though their workload didn't actually change, they experienced significant weight loss and improvements in their health markers.
Wait, you're telling me that just believing their work was exercise actually led to real physical changes?
That's exactly what the research suggests. It highlights the power of our beliefs to shape our reality, even when it comes to something as tangible as body composition.
Okay, that's mind-blowing. So how can we practically apply mental training to things like weight loss and muscle growth?
One technique involves consciously focusing on the positive effects of the food we need, visualizing how it nourishes our bodies and supports our goals. Another approach is to identify and transform any limiting beliefs we have about food. For example, if you tend to associate ice cream with happiness, you might explore other ways to experience joy and satisfaction that don't involve unhealthy treats.
So we're talking about rewiring our mental circuitry around food, breaking free from those emotional eating patterns, and really developing a healthier relationship with our bodies.
Exactly. And mental training can also be very effective for maximizing muscle growth. One drill involves visualizing the process of muscle protein synthesis, actually picturing nutrients from the food we eat being transported to our muscle cells and being used to build bigger, stronger fibers.
So it's like we're mentally directing those building blocks to create our desired physique.
That's a great way to put it. By combining that focused intention with the right nutrition and training, we can really amplify our results. We can accelerate our progress and achieve things that might have seemed out of reach before.
This is all so empowering, but I have to ask, is there a way to take this mental training even further, to make it even more effective?
There is. It involves tapping into a state of effortless performance that's often referred to as flow state.
Flow state. I've heard that term before. Isn't that what athletes experience when they're in the zone?
That's it. Flow state is characterized by this complete absorption in the present moment, this heightened awareness, and a sense of effortless action. It's that sweet spot where our skills and the challenges we're facing are perfectly balanced. It leads to peak performance and a really deep sense of joy.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. How do we actually access this flow state? Is it something we can control, or is it just a matter of luck?
While flow states can sometimes happen spontaneously, we can actually learn to cultivate them using specific techniques. Logan Christopher outlines a multi-step drill in his book. It combines visualization, submodalities, and anchoring to help people access flow on demand.
So we're talking about hacking into flow state, making it a tool we can use whenever we need it.
That's the idea. By understanding the different elements that contribute to flow, we can create the conditions that make it more likely to occur. And once we've experienced flow, we can use anchoring to trigger it more easily in the future.
This is so exciting. It's like realizing we have access to this hidden wellspring of potential inside of us, just waiting to be unlocked.
And unlocking that potential is really what mental muscle training is all about. It's about recognizing that our limitations are often self-imposed and that by mastering our minds, we can achieve things that once seemed impossible. Let's start with kettlebell swings. There was this athlete, Ben, who was challenged to do as many swings as possible with a 44-kilogram kettlebell.
Okay,
He managed to get to 7 reps before hitting his limit.
what did they do then? Give him a pep talk, offer him a protein shake.
They actually took him through a visualization exercise. They asked him to picture himself doing the swings and to notice where he saw that image in his mind's eye. Interestingly, Ben saw the image low and to the left, which is often associated with a perception of difficulty.
So the way he was framing it in his mind was actually contributing to how hard it felt.
Right, so then they asked him to remember a time when an exercise felt really easy for him. As he accessed that memory, his gaze actually shifted upward, a position that's linked to feelings of ease and mastery.
Ah, I see. They're mapping out his internal landscape, figuring out how his mind processes these ideas of difficulty and ease.
Precisely. Then they asked Ben to visualize those kettlebell swings again, but this time to move that image up to that position where he saw the easy exercise. They had him really embody that feeling of ease, the effortlessness of the movement.
I'm on the edge of my seat here. What happened when he tried the swings again?
Well, Ben ended up completing 14 reps, double his initial performance. And what's even more amazing is that he reported that the 44-kilogram kettlebell felt as light as a 22-kilogram one.
Wow, twice the reps with half the perceived effort. That's pretty incredible. It really shows the power of reframing our mental perception.
And it highlights how our limitations are often more in our minds than in our bodies.
Okay, I need to hear another example. Give me more.
Let's switch from kettlebells to handstand push-ups. We have Maddie, a highly skilled athlete who was trying to master handstand push-ups on his fingertips, an incredibly difficult feat.
Yeah, that sounds unbelievably hard. I can barely do a regular handstand, let alone one on my fingertips.
Even with his incredible strength, Mattis was struggling. He rated the difficulty of just 2 reps as a 9 out of 10. And here's the interesting thing. When asked to visualize the exercise, he said he imagined himself being in the body of a Shaolin monk. You know, those guys known for their finger strength?
So he wasn't just visualizing himself doing it. He was tapping into the mental blueprint of someone who had already mastered that skill.
Exactly. They then guided him to shift his perspective even further, to really embody that monk's confidence and mastery, to feel the exercise as something he already possessed.
I'm sensing a theme here, moving from a mindset of limitation to a mindset of possibility.
That's it. And the results were remarkable. After that mental reframing, Matties was able to complete 4 reps. And not only that, but he moved with more fluidity and control. He even lowered his difficulty rating from a 9 to a 4, a 5.
So by adopting the mental framework of a master, he was actually able to elevate his own performance.
And this highlights the power of modeling. By studying those who have already achieved what we aspire to, we can actually internalize their beliefs and strategies, which can accelerate our own progress.
Okay, give me one last case study to drive this point home.
Okay, let's talk about anchoring and how it was applied to Olympic weightlifting. There was this weightlifter named Tyler who was working on improving his clean and jerk. He already used a breathing technique as an anchor, but they decided to establish a more powerful trigger for him.
How do they go about setting this new anchor?
They guided Tyler through a hypnotic visualization. First, they had him really vividly recall a successful lift, experiencing all those feelings of power, precision, the satisfaction of a perfectly executed lift. And then, at the peak of that experience, they introduced the new anchor, a firm tap on his forehead right in the area known as the third eye.
So they're connecting a physical gesture to that powerful mental and emotional state.
Exactly. And then to really reinforce the anchor, they had Tyler do what's called future pacing, which involves visualizing himself 3 months into the future, successfully lifting a heavier weight while using the anchor.
So they're essentially pre-programming his nervous system for success.
That's a great way to put it, and the results were impressive. Tyler reported feeling much more confident and focused when he used the anchor, and his lifts became smoother and more explosive.
Wow, I'm sold. These case studies are really compelling evidence for the effectiveness of mental training. But where do we even begin? How do we actually start incorporating these techniques into our own training?
It all starts with self-awareness. Pay attention to your inner dialogue, to the beliefs you hold about your abilities, and how your mind tends to react to challenges. Notice things like your eye movements during visualization, your internal representations of difficulty and ease, and the triggers that tend to evoke different emotional states.
So it's about becoming an observer of our own minds.
Exactly. And once you have a clear understanding of your own mental landscape, you can start experimenting with the techniques we've discussed. Hypnosis, visualization, submodality manipulation, anchoring. Start with small, achievable goals and gradually integrate these tools into your training routine.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of human potential. What's the single most important takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important takeaway is this. Our minds are far more powerful than we often give them credit for. We have this incredible ability to shape our reality, to push past limitations, and to achieve things that might have seemed impossible. The key is to cultivate that mental muscle, to train our minds with the same dedication and focus that we apply to our physical training. By harnessing the power of belief, visualization, and these other mental tools, we can unlock our true potential and create extraordinary results in all areas of our lives.
It's not just about physical strength, it's about mental fortitude. It's about believing in ourselves, visualizing our success, and anchoring those empowering states. It's about recognizing that our limitations are often self-imposed, and that by mastering our minds, we can truly achieve superhuman feats. So, to our listeners, I encourage you, what seemingly impossible things are you now ready to conquer? Until next time, keep pushing those boundaries, both physical and mental. And remember, anything is possible when you believe.
Until next time, TTA8.